If we have not met yet, my name is Channing Pitts, and I'm in charge of membership and development at HBAV. So thank you for joining. We have started this webinar series in order to provide more education to our members. So thank you for joining. Before we get started, just some upcoming highlights at HBAV. May is National Home Remodeling Month, so we are hosting a Trends in the Remodeling Industry webinar on the 13th. And then May 27th, we are hosting a new laws effective July 1 with the HBAV Government Affairs team. So you can sign up for both of those. They're both virtual. In terms of our in-person events, our annual Conference and Housing Excellence Awards is June 25th to 27th in Virginia Beach this year. And then September 29th is our Virginia Builder Summit. And you can register for that now as an attendee, or if you'd like to exhibit, please let Emily or I know and we can point you in the right direction. More on annual conference. This year, we are hosting a Fun After 5 welcome party. We also have a Builders and Breakfast event. We have some great education sessions that are in the works right now. And of course, our Housing Excellence Awards programming. Registration and rooms do tend to sell out, so please register and get your room sooner rather than later, but no later than May 27th, I believe. I believe that's the last day to register and book a room. We are very excited to have some great panelists with us today to speak to you all. First, we have Jackie Bates, Executive Vice President at Annandale Millwork and Allied Systems. She's been there for just over 25 years, I believe. We also have Kurt Hankey, who is a sales manager at Blue Links. He oversees the Frederick, Maryland and Richmond, Virginia areas. He's been there for 10 years. And then we have Scott Gandy, who is president of Kempsville Building Materials. And I believe he's been there since he was a teenager. We also have our CEO, Craig Tolson, on the call, who will be moderating the discussion. But with that, Craig, I will let you jump right in.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you for being with us today. As Channing mentioned, we've started this webinar series this year just to, expand on our member engagement and really expand and dig into the vast expertise that we have as part of the membership. So today's panel, we are going to bring together our key building material suppliers. These suppliers, as you know, deal with builders every single day. They are a huge part of our association. Actually, we have more associate members, which our suppliers are, as members of our association than builders. So they are a key component. So for home builders, we know that your choices for building materials are more than just cost. They, of course, affect your schedules, your quality, code compliance, expectations from your customers, and then long-term performance of the home. So we know pricing and costs are important to everyone. And I encourage everyone, if you don't already, to subscribe to NAHB Eye on Housing blog. Just yesterday, they released a blog that was related directly to material pricing. We won't be getting into specific material pricing on products today. We are not going to talk about that. We may talk about long-term trends, but we aren't going to get into costs. Just to reference that blog post so we can kind of set the stage. Energy input prices increased in March at their fastest pace since June of 2020. Of course, as this conflict in Iran continues. Building material prices, excluding energy, rose for the 11th straight month. And just a data point, but building material prices were up 0.4% in March and are up 3.1% compared to a year ago. So that is the national trend. We'll kind of leave it at that as far as prices. And again, there's a lot of data that's out there. And that's all according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. So today's discussion is very important because, again, we know the relationship between builders and suppliers has never mattered more. We have the pricing volatility I just mentioned, innovation, sustainability, lead times, decisions made on both sides of the table have real consequences. So our goal today is to have this open, practical conversation about what's changing, what's coming, a little bit of peek behind the curtain. We're always talking about what builders are dealing with. How's the building market? Well, let's talk a little bit about how the building material market is, because there's such a big, important part to our association. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our panelists for them to introduce ourselves, and then we will get into the discussion. So I will start, ladies first. Jackie Bates, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Jackie Bates with Annandale Millwork and Allied Systems. And I've had the pleasure to work in this industry for just over 25 years now. So I've definitely seen a lot of different things over the years. And, we've grown in our geography with our supply base, and um, happy to participate in this and share anything that might be helpful for you all today with what we're seeing.
Great. Scott, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Scott Gandy with Kempsville Building Materials. I have been here 53 years. So I don't know what I can bring to the panel except the trials and tribulations of the building materials industry.
Great. And Kurt, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Kurt Hakey. I've been with Blue Links for just about 10 and a half years now. Primarily been in Frederick, but have just started working with Shane down in Richmond about 2 months ago. So I also, in the past, have also managed the Denville, New Jersey location for a couple of years during COVID, which was a lot of fun.
Great. Well, I'm going to start, and I'm going to shoot this one to you, Scott, because you've been there the longest. Just a little bit about how the building material supply industry has changed. The question I wrote was in the past decade, but really, how has it changed and evolved, that you've seen the most, that you are having to deal with, that maybe builders are not aware of?
Craig, honestly, the business has remained basically the same until we hit the downturn in 2009. That was I've been through probably 8 or 9 downturns, but that was the one that changed everything for us. We had to retool and figure out how we move forward after that and rebuild at that point. And it was very challenging. But the business itself has remained pretty much the same. The COVID time was something I've never seen. I don't think we'll ever see it again. At least I hope we don't. Um, but the basic business is the same. It's trying to figure out what your customers need, when to buy to get them the best price, and hopefully you make the right decision and don't bust yourself up.
Great. Well, Jackie, I know you all three deal with making sure you have relationships with builders. Has the supplier builder relationship kind of changed and evolved and over the last 10 years?
You
Or
know,
anything you'd like to add about the industry changing?
I mean, similar to Scott, I don't know that a lot has changed in the fundamentals with how to communicate with builders and build relationships. I mean, I do think one thing that's changed a lot that you have to differentiate when you're asking that question is between national builders and regional and local builders. There's differences for sure. So there's nuances maybe there, but at the end of the day, it's being consistent and showing up and having the right price and just being consistent, I think.
And this could be to anybody, but Kurt, you haven't asked the question. Sounds like the industry has not changed a lot in the last 10 years. Of course, we had to adapt through COVID. Do you see any major shifts on the horizon that your industry is going to have to adapt to, that's coming, that may change the way that you all do business?
Well, I've definitely seen the beginning of AI creeping in a little bit on our side, and I think as a benefit. But I think from a product perspective, kind of the biggest difference I've seen since I've been here is more of a shift from just the standard, shipping units and dropping them at the yards for customers, to getting more involved and being a partner with them, and delivering the job sites. We've invested in 3 Moffats here in Frederick, and Richmond has a Moffat down there as well, and just becoming better partners and finding out exactly what our customers struggle with, and avenues that we can help them with in those, for those situations. So as a company, we're trying to become more of a partner in helping with those, like fill those voids that our customers have right now.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the market. I know I briefly said about the pricing and the national trends. With what's going on worldwide, and anybody is welcome to answer this. Which materials do you think are most exposed to the volatility with energy and shipping and supply chain? And which ones do you think may be a little bit more stable long term through what we're dealing with in the world today?
I think Scott and I might say the same thing. I don't know.
Go ahead, Jackie. What's your thought?
Everything. I mean, everything is going to be impacted, in my opinion, with the fuel creeping up. I mean, hopefully it's shorter term than longer term, but with the logistics and the fuel, you already had a capacity issue with flatbed trucks and regulation issues and things like that, creating an issue with shipping. But then you add the fuel into it as well. I think we have some really serious challenges that needs to get off the table, because there was already going to be challenges with shipping, and increased rates perhaps because of capacity issues, which impacts anything you're shipping. So that's my general thought on that.
Well, a truck on the road today, in my opinion, runs about $300 an hour. So yes, everything that's shipped into us is going to go up in price. We probably take in 60 or 70 car loads a year if the pricing makes sense. But anything petroleum based, we are seeing announcements fairly regularly from the manufacturers on their cost of goods are going up. So of course their finished product is going to go up. We're continuing to see increases in manufactured products, windows, anything that we don't build ourselves here that we can't control the cost on, we're seeing price increases.
Kurt,
Yeah,
do you have anything to add? Go ahead.
I would agree with what they said. I think it's all relative to where it's coming from too. I think a lot of the import products and the molding and things like that are going to get hit harder just because of the container prices have gone up. We've seen in some instances tenfold in a month, since this war started. So I think there's going to be, if it continues long term, I think a lot of the import products are going to get hit a lot harder than some of the stuff that's even with the gas prices going up. I think some of the import stuff's going to get hit even harder.
I was going to ask what if there are any. I mentioned the NHB data source. Are there any data sources that you all use that are available for builders for them to be a little bit more aware of the trends, so that as we know that what's going up, what's going down, that you could reference them to, or where you all get? I know you get your data, of course, from the supplier you're purchasing from, but any data sources out there that you think would be helpful for builders to utilize and kind of plan for long term versus just calling you and saying, what's the price, right?
Right.
Yeah, give you a little cover, right? I know that you all are always, unfortunately, the bearer of bad news. But is there anything that we can send them to?
I mean, we live off random links on the lumber side and the panel side, so I think that's a pretty easy report to get your hands on. The problem is it's not always accurate. Random Lengths prints a price, but freight's up. If demand is high, you're never going to stay on Random Lengths. It's generally you're buying over or under depending on the market condition. So, stick with whoever you're comfortable getting your information from. We try to stay ahead of it. I think, Craig, you said that 3% increase on pricing and building materials.
That was according to the U.S.
Okay.
Bureau of Labor Statistics. Building
I'll-
material prices, which is just one component of this,
Right.
was up 3% compared to a year ago. That's everything combined.
Understood. Well, I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
lumbers and panels has gone up 30% in the last 30 days. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's running right now. I think that the issue we're facing is mills are claiming they didn't make money last year and they're going to make money this year. So I don't know that we see this trend going away. I think it'll stabilize at some point, but it's a guess to where it's going to end up.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing of this year is that the overall lack of demand is really keeping this thing in an interesting spot, I think, with pricing, because there's the logistic issues we just talked about, and we haven't talked about labor, but I think we should get into that. Those are things that are driving costs up, but the material costs on the lumber are, I think it's cooling off a little bit because there's, I think it was something like 14% collapse in single family housing starts. I pulled in a 5.4% decline in building permits. So it's like there's not, the sawmills are trying to, they have closures and they pull back, and they've removed like around 1.3 billion board feet of capacity, but it's not enough with the lack of demand to really impact the pricing. If demand picks up, I think the combination of the amount of imports, and like with SPF, we're down 25% since 2018 of what's been imported into the States, and 24% just year over year. So I think it's a perfect storm brewing if things all pick up, and what exactly that increment of being picked up is, I don't know, but there's not enough buying happening out there on the material side to really create the issues that happened like during COVID, the craziness during COVID. There's these other issues that are causing increases and will, but yeah, just that's what I'm seeing on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I would agree. We use the Random Lengths report week, obviously, all the time, but we also do have weekly calls, like corporate wide, to kind of just discuss trends of what's happening with lumber and panels. Matter of fact, just as to what Jackie was talking about with kind of the import lumber, we've seen most of the mills we work with typically have a container or a ship a month showing up. And they've kind of pushed back to 6 to 8 weeks now, just because of demand and also because of costs. So it's definitely causing a little bit of a pinch on that Euro product as well right now, especially the premium.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jackie, you mentioned it, so let's shift to labor and workforce. How are labor constraints in the manufacturing, trucking, warehousing affecting your business and what you're doing? Do you want to elaborate on any
Are you
of the
asking
labor
me?
constraints? Yes, or anyone else, but you had
Well,
mentioned
sure.
it, so I wanted to.
Well, yeah. So in the field, right, we're seeing it in the field a lot, these
Right.
framing crews, right? And I'm we have relationships with them, and yeah, there's no one coming in. Everyone knows that there's no one coming in, and there's a lot of people that have left, and it's a very real concern and issue. Again, if it's already an issue right now, I think that there's some sites and there's some houses that uh are running behind at times because of that. But it's kind of like a week to week scenario for these guys. As far as us, we've seen a change from about a year ago for sure with if we're looking for people, but it's not it's not terrible for us as far as our facilities at this moment in time. It's more, I'm seeing a lot of issues in the field with the framers.
Scott, how about you? You got multiple facilities in Virginia and the Carolinas, and is labor impacting your operations?
We're staying steady, Craig. Finding good people is difficult. But I have seen, for us, we started probably 15 years ago installing windows and doors, and that was really the only thing we were installing. But Jackie mentioned about labor in the field. So we have really focused on that piece for the builder doing installed sales. And our growth has been 500% in the last 3 years from what we were doing to what we're installing today. And we'll continue to offer that because I think there's that niche of builders out there that likes the ease of getting a turnkey job. So we continue to grow that part of our business to help offset that field issue.
Okay. Kurt, anything on your end with the labor side?
I would just say, I mean, we have seen some jobs get pushed back just due to not being able to find labor. But I think to Scott's point, I think a lot of it has to do with how consistent you can keep them busy. If you're not keeping them busy all the time, they're just moving on to somebody else that can. So that's where we're seeing the problems is some of these guys that are just getting these one-off jobs and then they have a hard time getting people on them.
Yeah. I know we talked a little bit about the energy costs and supply chain in general with the world or the global events. Are there any specific political or regulatory policies that you all watch or have had a big impact? I'm thinking tariffs, any again labor regulation that specifically you say, hey, I can point to this, which has had an impact. Uh, we have always been opposed to the tariffs as an organization, our national association, but it looks like the data is builders are saying they haven't reported increases specific to tariffs itself yet. But anyway, just thinking if there's anything that you say, as an industry, we're always looking at all the land use and construction policies or anything that you all would point to that you're monitoring.
Not from my perspective, not really. We watch the tariffs, but it's into the price now. So we don't really know what that percentage is. So but we've been having tariffs from Canada forever. So it's just more full blown now than in the past, but it just affects the cost of the product.
Yep.
Yeah, the only thing maybe on the horizon that should again maybe be downward eventually is that last week they the preliminary, the anti-dumping and the countervailing duties, which like have always been out there, um, they fell. The anti-dumping rate fell from like 20.6 to 10.7, and the CVD rate fell from 14.6 to 14.2. So it's like a combined 10% drop. And then the 232 tariff would add 10% onto that. So it's like maybe a 10% drop from what we're currently seeing if that happens, and that'll get finalized in August. But it's all supply and demand, and it gets baked into the price, and those were always there. So
it's hard to actually say this is, it's not like you're checking out somewhere and it says tariff percentage at the bottom. It's all baked in there.
yeah.
So it's hard to say.
But in general, I'd say with the Canadian imports with the spruce, I mean, they're just not shipping nearly as much as they used to. 2018, it's down 25% from its peak. But
All right, so let's shift to what builders can maybe do to better adapt to volatility and pricing. Does anybody have any tips of how builders can kind of stay ahead of this, how they can be a better partner working through this cycle? Think about your best customer.
Well, it depends on the type of customer, whether it's commercial multifamily, national, or a regular custom builder. You put together plans for each of those and what affects them in the best way. Communication, job start, job end, allows us to buy properly for the jobs and buy more competitively. Most of our builders understand that, and they kind of reach out and tell us what their projection is, and we buy based on what's coming up, so we make sure we have them covered on the pricing. But it's communication and keeping us informed of what your needs are.
Jackie, anything to add? How builders can be the best partner with you?
No, I agree with everything Scott said. It's communication. I think the hard part, like in times like this, is we almost are living it real time. We don't really know uh, what we've got until we're kind of living through it. It's kind of like that because with the mills and the different things, right? Trying to get in front of things for builders, I kind of have the same conversations with them, but it's like none of them are typically up front in front of it. It's like, after the fact. So it's tricky. It's tricky. I think the people showing up to buy is the really big unknown of with the interest rates and everything else going on, the what it's going to be like. But if builders have those contracts in hands and know those numbers, yes, the communication is key, and then everybody can be prepared for what they know.
All right, so now I'm going to flip the question the opposite way. What drives you crazy when a builder does this, which makes it very difficult for you? Like, do you have any? Come on, you don't say
Job
names.
delay is the worst, because you put a project together based on a start date and a completion date, and if there's reasons out of their control that they can't start on time and it goes 2, 3, 4 months past, and you're sitting on that product that you bought to cover that price, you get killed on the interest side. And like I say, Craig, most of the time it's out of their control. It's just one of those parts that happens. But job delays is worse for me. I hate that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yep. Job delays and job movements on the schedule. We're moving it back, we're moving it up, we're moving it all around. Those kinds of things.
Yeah, you can't accurately perform, particularly on your manufacturing side, when you're building roof trusses, panels, walls, that type floors, and you're given a date. Oh, we're 30 days behind. Well, you've built the product sitting on the yard. You put projects off based on a schedule. It makes things difficult. Again, most of the time, I do believe it's out of the builder's control. It's just things that happen on his job or his job site it's the building business, but
It's
that's the
true.
worst part.
It's
That's the
true.
worst part. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So delays, which kind of goes back to that just communication, as much communication and relationships you have. Kurt, anything to add on uh the builder side, the best the best customer and the ones that drive you crazy?
I think it's very similar to what Jackie and Scott have said. I mean, we one thing we did start doing a few years back was offering like a reload opportunity here for some of the larger jobs where customers could buy the stuff up front, and then we would house it and then deliver it as needed. And not really kind of understanding the whole start to finish process of it. We did get bit on the first couple we did based exactly off what Scott and Jackie said. The jobs got delayed. They told us they would start by a certain date and end by a certain date, and then we ended up having multiple jobs going on at the same time, trying to deliver everything. And it was very confusing and difficult up front, but we have kind of worked through that now to have a kind of a better plan in place for doing that. But yeah, that's definitely, when you're buying all that material up front, you know, that is definitely the biggest challenge when you all of a sudden you just have it sitting there for a while.
All right. Well, anything I want to give our panelists kind of do you have any closing comments or remarks that we didn't get to that you say, hey, I'd like for everyone, whether it's my fellow building material suppliers or manufacturers or builders, that they should know, that you wanted to communicate? This is the time for you. Get on your soapbox.
Well, I'll tell you my biggest problem with building today versus 40 years ago. 40 years ago, builders were very experienced and they understood their job and what they needed to do. And today, because building has changed its dynamics, we've got young kids coming out of college with a construction management degree, and they're hired and put in the field, and they don't have a clue. And we have to basically manage those jobs for those guys. It's much more cumbersome for the sales team because they're not just selling, they're then scheduling jobs because those guys are so green. And once you get them up to speed, they go somewhere else. So it's frustrating from that perspective that the young guys coming out learn and then they move, and we don't get consistent with that team. The change is inevitable. But other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Kurt, anything else you wanted to add that you thought about sharing today?
No, I mean, actually, we kind of have the same challenge on the distributor side, where we hire a lot of kids right out of college, put the time and energy in to train them, and then they, they'll move on to either a manufacturer rep job, or they'll move over to something totally different. And it's just kind of always, you've got always that certain percentage that you're always kind of rotating and trying to backfill. So it's definitely a challenge.
Jackie, anything for the group?
No, I think that's great. I think we all are always dealing with similar challenges, and it's just working together and, um, being as respectful as you can when one of us is working with a challenge. Maybe you're not at the time, and we are, because we all deal with the same things in our realms. We really do. So, but no, I think the $1 million questions. When are all these houses going to start at some point? I want to know
Right.
from the builders. But
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
will say a little bit of positive. I was up in Northern Virginia yesterday with the meeting with 25 builders, some of our largest builders, and they were all very positive about the spring market. So hopefully it's about to hit. They all went around the room and did a little market discussion, how they're feeling through the first 3 months of the year, and they were all very positive. So hopefully that's a good sign.
Keep our fingers crossed.
That's
well,
right.
stay
That's right.
positive.
Don't shoot the messenger if it doesn't happen, but that's what I was told. All right. Well, I appreciate you all doing this so much. We're always, one thing that I love about the association world is it's competitors coming together for the common good. And we're typically getting our builders all together, and they compete every day for the same customer, and getting them in the room to kind of all pull in the same direction is amazing. So having our building material uh, industry doing the same thing, I really can't thank y'all enough for doing this. Just a side note, Kempsville, Blue Links, and Annandale are all what we call Keystone Club members, meaning they're annual sponsors of our organization, and it really helps us do everything we do on the advocacy side. So thank you. We are going to turn it over to a little Q&A now. So hopefully while I was talking and you were listening attentively, you have a question. So Channing, do you want to moderate the questions?
Had his hand up already, so he beat us to it.
Was that me you're
John.
talking about, Channing? I
Yes.
didn't hear you, got cut off. Hey,
Yes, sir.
This question's for Scott. Scott, you told me, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, it may have been longer, you were having huge issues with a shortage of CDL drivers to drive the materials to the job site. I know most of y'all probably get your materials delivered to you by rail. But then once it gets to your site, it has to get delivered to us. Has that gotten better, worse, same?
John, it depends on the location. In Chesapeake, my driving team has been with me 30 years. So they're very consistent. What we have started doing is if we get a driver in that is a B and wants to be an A, we send them to school with an understand. We make them sign an agreement that if I send them to school, they'll stay with me for 3 years. So we've kind of circumvented that problem. But
Right.
I mean, when COVID was here, driver pay went crazy. I'm sure everybody experienced that. I mean, if you're hiring a driver today in Class A, it's minimum $30 an hour. So it's changed so much as far as that compensation for those guys. I mean, a good truck driver today driving local makes 100 grand a year. I mean, I drove my first truck for $2 an hour, so it's changed a whole lot, but
I
not as bad as
remember.
it was. You
I
remember,
remember
don't
when you
you?
were driving it. Have you got any job openings for me?
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions from the chat, or if anybody'd like to raise a question? Okay. Jordan?
Hey, this is Jordan from Boone Homes. I had a question. Are we seeing any more consolidation? I know that was big a few years ago. I mean, it seemed like BFS was buying up everyone, and now you have ABC and US Lumber and all the different conglomerates. Is that still a threat, or is that changing how y'all handle things? And then same on the manufacturing side with looking at Hardy and TimberTech joining forces and some of the other ones. Are y'all seeing that in materials and then also on the distribution side?
We're seeing that trend continue. There's constant consumption by larger companies of smaller companies and even larger companies buying larger companies. All it's doing is cutting our choices. I think at the end of the day, everything balances out the same. So no real effect on what we're doing day to day.
Yeah,
Kurt, Jackie?
I'd agree with that. I think it's going to continue to happen. It's slowed down a little bit from what I can see from my vantage point, just because the market is not what it was. But I think you're going to see it continue to happen. You see it on the builder side and you see it on the supply side. Consolidation.
Yeah, we've seen the LMCs, the BFSs, the USLBMs, all those taking up a lot more of the independent yards around, but there's still a lot of really good ones around that want to continue to be independent too, which is great, but it's definitely been happening. And I mean, in regards to like the Hardy AZAC stuff, I mean, we've heard, they're just pushing to try to bundle that stuff a lot harder. The Hardy reps are pushing AZAC and the AZAC reps are pushing Hardy right now. So.
All right. Any other questions? All right, Channing, we'll kick it to you for the wrap up then.
Thank you, everybody, for joining today. This has been recorded, so we will send a follow-up email, and if it's okay with the panelists, I can include their contact information, but I will get with you, Jackie, Kurt, and Scott to see if that's okay. But thank you all again for joining. We really appreciate it and hope to continue these type of webinars in the future. So please let us know if you have any questions.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.